Hello buzzers, John here. What I want to talk to you about this week is something that may fill you with horror, and that's the idea of using actions in Photoshop. The reason it may fill you with horror is because it seems really complicated and really strange, because what an action is where you actually write a script for Photoshop to follow, so it automates a particular process you want to do. And of course, the idea of writing a script sounds like you've got to go into computer code or this kind of thing. None of that's true. You don't need to actually write any code or do anything like that. You just have to follow a sequence of events, which would be common to a lot of different images, and record them. Once you've done that, you can simply play them back with any image, and it will run through that sequence of events in exactly the same way. So let's take this example. Now I've got an image here taken in the Lake District, and let's say I want to present this image on an A3 sheet of paper right in the middle of it with a nice white border around the edge. Now at the moment this isn't sized to A3, this is, let me just check, let's go to image and choose image size. This is kind of, well, 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. So if we were to view that in centimeter dimensions, we can just change to centimeters, and it's 50 centimeters by 33.74 centimeters. It's too big to go on A3. So the only thing I can do is resize it roughly to A3 by punching in sort of a 42 centimeters. That's the width of it, so that's 42 centimeters. 27.9, so I'm going to leave a strip at the bottom at the top. It's going to be a bit of a mess. So let's not do that. What we want to do instead is make sure it's nicely arranged on an A3 canvas. So if you think about the size of an A3 canvas, it's 42 centimeters wide. So what we want to do is leave a nice white border around the edge. So let's pick the size of a border. Let's say we want a 3 centimeter border around the edge of the image. What that means is that if you take 3 centimeters on either side of the picture, so we've got 3 centimeters over here, 3 centimeters over here, what we're talking about is reducing the size of this image to a width of 36 centimeters. So 36 is the width we want for this standard 3:2 image. So if I change the size of that to 36 centimeters and then add white to make up the A3, then we can do it. But what I'm going to do is record that as an action. So it means that every single landscape-oriented image can be put through the same action to produce an A3 sheet of paper with a white border around the image. Now to do this, we need to open up our Actions panel. So once you've got your image open on screen, just pop up to Window and choose Actions, just up near the top. And that brings up the Actions palette. You'll find there are some default actions in there, and if you have used actions before, you may have your own, or you may have downloaded some from a magazine, CD, or a website. But what we're going to do is create a new set. So we're in the Actions panel, and I'm just going to click on this flyout menu here on the top right, click on that, and I want a new set first of all. So let's click on New Set, and I can name that now, and I'll call it John's Actions. There we go. I click OK. And now I've got a new set of actions with a drop down arrow, nothing in there yet because we haven't done anything yet. So now I want to actually create my new action. So I'm now going to click on that flyout menu once more and select New Action. Now I can name my action and I call it something descriptive so I know what it is. So let's say it's 300 ppi, 300 pixels per inch, A3 border. Oh, and it's landscape as well, so we'll call it landscape. Okay, so this is for a landscape format image, and we're gonna, let me spell landscape correctly. There we go. And once we've got our name for the action, that's all fine. I can now hit record, and I'm now recording. So what I want to do first of all is reduce the size of this image so it's appropriate to go in an A3 canvas. So we'll do that by going up to Image, and we'll choose Image Size. Now here we want to change it to 36 centimeters wide, I think we said. So let's get into centimeters first of all. Make sure that this little chain link icon is there, because that will constrain the proportions and make sure that the width and the height work together. And then we want to just punch 36 into that top one there, and it'll automatically conform the height to suit. 300 pixels per inch, that's what we want. We need to resample it, so make sure your resample box is ticked. That means it's going to actually change the number of pixels in the image. And I'm just going to use the bicubic smooth gradients option in the interpolation. These are various options to give either a smoother or a crisper or a sharper result, depending on what you go for. On the whole, the default generally is bicubic, and that's the one that you'll find to use. So I've got all that set up, and now I'm just going to resize the image. So I click OK, and you see that action is recorded. So we've changed the size of the image, and it's now 36 centimeters wide at a resolution of 300 pixels per inch. So what we want to do now is create a border around it that corresponds to the size of a sheet of A3. So it's all ready to print. So to do that, we need to go to canvas size, because we're going to build white around the edge. But to make sure we get white, we need to understand that the canvas size option gets its information from the background color swatch. So let's first make sure that that is set to white. So I'm just going to click on this icon here, and when I click on that, it said reset swatches. So we've actually told Photoshop to reset the swatches. After we've resized our image, we want to make sure that black is the foreground color, and more importantly, white is the background color. So we've got two commands now in our actions, in our action script. We've got the image size one, and we've got the reset swatches. So now that's done, we can move on to changing our canvas size and building that border around the edge. So let's go to image, and we'll go down to canvas size. We'll click on canvas size. Now what we want is a sheet of A3 in the overall dimensions. So we don't want this relative box ticked. We don't want that at all. Don't have the relative box ticked. All you've got to do is input the size of A3 and make sure the anchor box is in the right place. So A3, I happen to know, is 42 centimeters wide, and it's 29.7 centimeters high. So that's all correct. The anchor box is just going to go in the middle here, so we make sure our anchor's in the middle, and that means the image will be put within the canvas in the center of it. We don't want it at the top edge or the bottom edge, we want it in the middle. So canvas extension color, we've got white there. If you were on foreground or background, it would pick up the background color, but we'll just select white, so that's okay. And then we're just going to click OK. And that builds our canvas around the image in the way we want it. So we've got our A3 document with a 3 centimeter white border at each edge, and we've got our picture in its standard ratio of 3:2 in the middle. And what we also have is another action here saying canvas size. So if we expand these, there's our image size. That's telling us what size the image now is. We've told it to be 36 centimeters wide, and the interpolation method, all the rest of it. Then we've got our reset swatches. That's just going to be black foreground, white background. And then we have our canvas size. And in this one, we have our width, our new width of 42 centimeters by 29.7. So that is the dimensions of A3. We've got horizontal center, vertical center, and the extension color is white. So that's all the information we need. And now we can click stop. We've finished recording our action. So we click stop, and that action's recorded. So we can collapse all of that and just have our 300 ppi A3 border landscape. And now let's test it. So to test it, I'll use the same image, but I'm just going to backtrack on the changes I've made. So I can do that by hitting Command and Z, or Control and Z if you're on a PC. That's just the undo command, and that's taken our image back to its regular size. That's how it kind of came out of the camera. All we have to do is select the appropriate action, the one we want to use, and that's the one we've just created. So we click on that one there, and that means that all this stuff is going to happen to the image when we press play. And play is this little triangle down here, just like the transport controls on an old school cassette machine or something. So we've got our action highlighted. Now when I press play, that should very, very rapidly change my image size to 36 centimeters wide, add a white border, and change the whole thing to A3. And let's see how quick it is. That's how quick it is. And that's how you do an action. So now that's done, we have an automatic action, a script that can be used on any image. And to prove that, let's just open another image at random. So I'm going to open a shot of a little still life shot of a water drop. So I've just loaded that into Photoshop, and you can see it's a completely different image. It's going to be a different size. It was taken on a different camera. So let's just have a quick look. Image size. Let's see how big it is. Right, so this is 36 by 24 centimeters. So this has been taken on a 12 megapixel camera. Okay, so let's now apply that same action to this picture. So remember, this is just out of the camera, different resolution, different size, different scale. It's still in 3:2, which is important, but it is in landscape format. So we can use our A3 border landscape. So we make sure that action's live and selected, and then we just click the play button. And just as before, we have an A3 canvas now with a white margin around the outside, all neatly presented, all by pressing one button in Photoshop. So this action has processed the image to make it exactly the same size as this particular image. They're both A3, they're both ready to print, all through using that one seamless action. And the only hassle about actions is recording them, is making them in the first place. But once you've got a few under your belt, you'll see how easy and quick it is to let Photoshop take over those rather dull, repetitive tasks that we do very frequently. There's no point doing an action for something that's highly customized and applies only to one particular image. Like, say, making a black and white conversion. You'll be changing the colors, the tones, you'll be changing the contrast. You can't do an action for that sort of thing. But for doing common tasks, like presenting a print in a nice sort of a nice border, that's exactly the kind of task that actions are brilliant for. So to make sure it makes sense, I'll run through it once more, only this time I'll use a vertical image. Let me just close down my water drop. Don't need to save that one. And I'll close down this one as well. Let me find a vertical picture I can use. So we got a little puffin with a mouthful of sand eels, taken on one of the Photobuzz trips to the Farne Islands. And what we'll do with this, we'll create an action, this time for vertical images. So we've got our action set there. We're going to go to new action first of all. So let's get a new action. And we'll give it a similar title, so 300 ppi. We'll call it A3 because we're going to go to that print size again. And we're going to have a border on it. And it's going to be portrait. How you designate these things, how you decide to describe them is entirely up to you. But that kind of makes sense to me. I know what I'm looking for with this sort of thing. So I'll now hit record. And we're all set to make another action. There it is in our list. So we need to first of all make our image 36 centimeters high if we want the same kind of border. So we go to image, we go down to image size. And at the moment it's 38.24 centimeters high. So we don't want that, we want to make it 36. And then it drops to 24 in the width, as you'd expect with a 3:2 image. So that bit's done. That was fairly straightforward. I've got the resample box ticked because we're going to change the number of pixels in the image, and I've chosen my interpolation method, how those pixels are going to be changed, by using the bicubic smooth gradients option. Okay, so that's done. So that's changed the size of the image to the size I want, and I now need to reset those color swatches. That's always a step I like to take. So to do that, I'll just click right on those two little boxes there, or I can hit D on the keyboard to set the default foreground and background colors. And now I need to change the canvas size. So I go up to image, down to canvas size, and I need to input the dimensions of A3 when it's vertical. So the width is going to be 29.7 centimeters, the height is going to be 42 centimeters, and I want it in the middle. Canvas extension color, white. Yeah, we've kind of covered ourselves in case we've got a different option. So I've got belt and braces with my reset swatches, but that's white extension color. I can now click OK, and that will build that nice white border around the outside of my puffin picture in the vertical format. So now that's done, my action's complete, and I can hit stop. So we've now got two options for making this effect, this border effect, and sizing and scaling a print to exactly A3 size, one for landscape images, one for portrait images, and it's always good to test your action just in case anything's gone wrong. So I'm going to make sure I'm back on my puffin picture. I'll hit Control or Command and Z to go back to my original. There we go. And now let's test it. So we select the border portrait because it's a portrait image, then we click play, and in a jiffy we have it scaled and sized to A3 with a neat white border around the edge. So that's how to use actions. Obviously a very simple action, but a great time saver. If you want to convert your pictures into A3 prints with a neat white border, then this is the easiest way to do it, and it's all done for you in one click. And of course those actions will be saved. You don't need to save them in any other way. They're already saved and they will be part of your actions palette the next time you open it up. It's only if you click on it and hit this trash can icon, then you'll lose them. But other than that, they will remain in your actions palette and saved into your system. So you can access them anytime and run your A3 border actions to quickly process your pictures into a presentable and printable state. Alright, I hope that was useful to you. Watch it through again or follow it through and ride the pause button on the video as you're making your own actions. And in 5 minutes you'll have created your own actions and will also start to see the potential for creating your own custom actions to take the pain out of repetitive tasks in Photoshop. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.